let's have some fun. So, I've had this idea for a few days now where basically I realized I need to have a good lead magnet for Quasar, for quasarcast.com. At the moment, I'm just telling people to go there, and it's been surprisingly successful. We've got almost 100 people. Actually, let's check out Metabase. Whoops, wrong Metabase. Metabase.quasarcast.com. This is what I use to sort of analyze my data. Just gives me like really nice access to my database. I'm going to jump into Quasarcast. Hang on a second. I want to go browse all items and we want to go growth. This is my growth dashboard. Yeah, so we've got 78 users at the moment that have signed up for Quasarcast. And all I've done is basically say at the end of my videos, like I'm going to tell you right now, go to quasarcast.com/register if you're curious in learning more about Quasar, how to build videos with Quasar. You know, if you like my kind of stuff. And so I've managed to get to this number doing that alone, which I'm pretty happy with. I'm pretty proud of that. But I thought, like, usually with marketing, you should have like a lead magnet. And a lead magnet is basically something to sweeten the deal. So I say, you know, if you sign up for Quasarcast, I'll give you this. I'll give you X, Y, Z. And my idea for that lead magnet is what I'm going to call like a learn Quasar pathway. I haven't decided exactly what I'll call it yet. But basically something where you answer a few questions, and I'm going to give you a pathway of how to learn Quasar from where you're at. So I kind of like just started spitballing some of these questions here. In fact, I'm going to copy, paste that down here so we can start playing around with it a little bit. This is my Quasar board where I put in like my vision for quasarcast.com. So I'm going to come in here. Oop, maybe over there. And let's just start kind of like playing around with this idea. I want to do this. I'm going to do this stream like from the ground up. This is just like the inception of the idea here. And now I'm going to sort of mess around with it. So first of all, we need to have the questions that we're going to ask. And the first thing I think is you kind of need to know JavaScript or Vue.js. And I'm going to assume that if people are taking my lead magnet, then they're going to at least know JavaScript. So that's why I was starting from this Vue.js question. So I don't know Vue. If they don't know Vue, then I could take them to a Vue getting started series, and then eventually I can build my own and have that in the system. I know another front-end framework, so React or Angular. So if they know that, you can send them to a different Vue tutorial, like something that is more for advanced people. And then if they know Vue, then I don't need to suggest to them to learn Vue. So, you know, this questionnaire is going to be very straightforward to begin with, and then I might make it more advanced later on. And one note I'm going to add is I'll have to make it so that my videos will need to be completable. So you'll have to be able to mark a video as completed, or I'll also want to mark it as completed if it's been if it reaches the end. So I'm going to have to implement that feature, which is right in that note there. So any experience with these topics? Ajax requests. If they don't have experience with that, then we can I'll do like a basic series on that. Maybe we'll even say with Axios. Might even just say here Axios. Flex layouts, so if they don't have any idea of how to do layouts with Flex, then I can lead them to like the layouts, you know, some videos on teaching them about layouts, because you're definitely going to have to understand layouts if you want to use Quasar. And, you know, maybe some people that understand these other frameworks don't actually know how to do layouts. Composition API, that'll be obvious, so I'll have a video for that. And maybe another one. And I can say, like, say here, for example, select as many as you like. And so that'll be another question. By the way, anyone who's watching, feel free to say hi, and I will say hi back. I love that kind of thing. What else? What are the kind of things that you'd want to learn before you can start diving into Quasar? So I might jump into the version 2 docs and just have kind of like an idea. What about router? So you need to understand the Vue router. Hello, RJ. How you doing? Nice to have you aboard. Axios. Where are you from, RJ? What else? So I'm thinking like Vue router would be a good one. Vue router. And actually, now that I'm doing this, I'm thinking this should probably be like a radio list or like a checkbox list. So maybe we'll have like an option in here. I think there's some icon sets that you can get, like checkbox. Yeah, can I do that? And then just add new ones? Oh, sweet. So we can say here like Axios, I'm from India. I am from Australia. I always like to have a look when people tell me where they're from. So this is where I'm from, in Australia. Newcastle, or more specifically Stockton. So I live on this little part of Newcastle over here. And we've got this beautiful long beach along there. Nice beaches in Australia. And you are, where are you in the world? All the way over here. Cool. I'm going to leave that up just in case anybody else tells me where they're from. So yeah, guys, if you just joined in, let me know where you're from. I love kind of looking on the map of where people are. All right, so we've got Axios. I'm going to add them into this list here. So flex, layouts, composition, API. I definitely want to get people onto that if they don't know it already. Whoop, we've got a duplicate there. And also view router. Also Vuex. So I'll definitely ask people if they know about Vuex. What else? We just want to cover like the core functionality. Layouts and grid. I've already said layouts. Style and identity. Not really anything here. Maybe utility classes. So how about we add in here utility classes? Like Tailwind, or what's the other one? Tachyon? Tachyon? Or something like that. CSS TAC. Oh, here we go. Tachyon. TACH, I think it is. Yeah, tachyons. I think that was another popular one. So I'll add that one in as well. Like Tailwind and, or I might even say here, or tachyons. What else? We might just add one more in, and I don't have to include all of these. Maybe like a component library. No, we're gonna show them components either way, so we'll leave that as is. Can we make SPA authentication where front end is hosted in Netlify and backend in Heroku? I tried many times, it didn't work, but works only in local machine. What are you using for the backend? That would be my first question. And I have done stuff doing authentication using Laravel as a backend, so I have done videos on that, or at least live streams on that in the past. Utility classes, I don't think so. Animation, maybe. That's probably the last one I'll add in, like CSS. Animation. Laravel. Oh, fantastic. Okay, let me quickly find you that series. Yes, I watched your video. Oh, yeah, it can be a little bit of a headache. Sometimes there's like little bits and pieces you need to fix up. Gosh, look at my recommendations. This is really cute. I'm always curious to see. I feel like YouTube gets it wrong a lot of the time. I usually just like watching South Park stuff. Yeah, anyway, I'm not going to talk about that in this video, but yeah, and maybe if you can let me know specifically what you're having problems with, RJ. And the best way to get in contact with me is Discord. I will answer things on YouTube via comments, but if you ask me directly on Discord, I can usually have like a more in-depth conversation and we can pinpoint what your problem is. So anyway, moving on. I think that'll do for this section here. In fact, I might take that up there and I'll delete all of these items in the list. And I'll basically point that to this section here. So let's maybe grab the circle one. Like that. Here we go, circle. And this just tells me that it relates to that. Okay, which of these learning strategies do you prefer? I just want to get up and running. I want to go in depth. So this is important because a lot of my series are basically are going to be more in depth. So at the moment, I'm working on a Quasar Getting Started series, which is going to run you through most stuff with Quasar. So all of this stuff on the right side, for example, will be covered in that series. And I've almost capped it off, and we're going to be building like to-do apps and that kind of thing. But I also have a video which is basically just teach me how to learn Quasar. So that's why I'm going to ask these two questions, and I think that will do. So next, let's have a little bit of a think about the UI now that we might have based on the answers to those questions. So let's see if I can just grab all that and delete it. Yeah, so I'm imagining maybe like the Quasar What's it called? The one that gives you like a history. Oh, I'm gonna have to probably look for it now. The one that you have on like social medias. The timeline, that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe we could have like a timeline component which tells you in order what you need to do. And the other one I'm thinking is there's like a hierarchy plugin that you can use that I got set up with Quasar once, which was really nice. So you can say like once you learn this, then you can learn that and that and that, and it creates like a hierarchy of videos that you need to cover. But I think this might work really well. And then I can say like, first we need to learn this, and then a description like, one of the most important things is blah, 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 blah. And then I can have a direct video in there or maybe a button that takes you directly to that video or that series. So that's another thing I'll have to do. I'll have to be able to say is my videos will need to be completable and a video series will need to be completable. So I need to be able to say like how much of this series is complete. And I'll probably do that on the back end. So like handle with query on back end. And that's me basically saying I don't think I want to hard code whether or not a series is complete. I just want to have it find out how many videos it's got and give you like a percentage bar or allow you to select which videos are complete using a query. Yeah, okay, cool. Moving on. By the way, anyone who's joined, let me know where you're from so I can find you on Google Maps. I love doing that. So yeah, I'm imagining a timeline component that basically tells you in order what you need to complete. So maybe we can say in here, for example, a timeline component and some examples of things that would be on that timeline. So I might even do this. Let's just change the background to something like white. Because I'm imagining having in that timeline, sorry, 1 second. Stuff like blog articles. Honestly, they probably wouldn't be blog articles. So like, and you probably want to cover stuff that people can read as well. So maybe I could say like, I rather learn through reading or, now we'll try to do everything through videos. So we can have like, external video, external documentation, link maybe. So that could be like a blog article or something else. What else? That's probably it before, for now. Yeah, that's all I can kind of think of for the moment. It doesn't really need to be any more complicated than that. All right, so I'm probably reaching a point where I can go ahead and start building out the UI for this. Yeah, and okay, so we could probably have a look at how the data could map for this. I'll just do that when I'm building out the UI. Let's go ahead and make this happen now. So let's say cd Quasar. No, it's not the getting started guy. I'm just so used to doing that now. Quasar cast. Open that in code. Come back in here and close it. Jump into full screen. Can I zoom out one more? No, that's going to be too small for all of you, so I'll zoom back in. And now we can go ahead and get started. So let's jump into cd app, and then we'll say Quasar dev to start our dev server. And I think I should already be able to access the API. Why is my Chrome hotkey not working? Oh, 1 sec. I need to do something with YouTube in order to get my Chrome hotkey working on my left screen. Is that going to work? Yeah. Okay, there we go. In fact, I might throw it into there and see if it still works. Yeah, cool. So now let's jump in and see if it's actually going to work for us. And I believe it is just quasarcast.test is what I'm using for local. All right, so that's not working. I might have to start nginx, sudo service nginx start. Sorry, I should have got this set up earlier, really. And then I'm probably also going to have to start up MySQL. The reason I don't have these started by default is because they clash with Docker environments that I use for work. All right, let's give that a crack and see if it works now. Cool. All right, so we've got our dev environment set up with some dummy data. So next we might want to have another menu up here that basically takes us to this page here. So what would we call that? Like what was I calling it here? Pathway. How about we just call it that to begin with? I think we got a main layout for app. Yep. And we got main menu tabs here. So I should be able to just add it to this object. Oh, I'll get that set up one of these days. So story, podcast, and we'll add in here pathway. Color, primary, the name of that is pathway, and then we can go ahead and create a page for this. So Quasar, new page, and we'll call this pathway page. That seems appropriate. We got a new version of npm. Oh, Quasar CLI. All right, let's go ahead and pull that in. Might close that down, get out of it, and once I got the new version, I'll pull that in. Next, I'm going to have to go to routes.js, and I want to make sure that we're actually pointing to this new pathway page. So what have I got here? We can probably just whack it straight under here. I'll end up extracting this file to its own component because it's getting a little bit big for my liking. All right, that's done. So let's run Quasar dev. Quasar, see if that's looks like it's probably in the latest version now. All right, and I called this page, scratching my brain, a pathway page. So now let's jump into that component, and then we'll say here, for example, index, just to check if it works. There's the pathway page, and it looks like it doesn't. Open up my console here. We might have to refresh the page as well. So it takes me to course. Okay, oh, we're using a route name there. So let's come back here. Pathway, the name, and the path should be equal to pathway. Completely messed that up. Pathway. There we go. So we begin by going to courses. Let's go to pathway. And I don't know what those errors are, but I'll check them out later. Cool. So now that we've got that, we want to have some questions coming up here. And I'm thinking this might work really well as a carousel. Yeah, I'm imagining a carousel, or maybe like a queue tabs component that doesn't actually show the tabs. I don't know, just like the panels. So let's say queue panel. Oh, maybe that's not what it is. Queue tabs. Yeah, here we go. I think there's a way to just show the tabs without oh no, so this is the one that's using the panels here. So what are we doing here? We got the queue tab panels. So let's try that and see if we can figure out how to use them without queue tabs. Queue tab panels. And the reason I'm trying to do that is what I want to, oh, by the way, RJ, I'll quickly just write in the chat. That is my Discord account name. If you want to find me on Discord. So I should be able to do this. Yeah, it looks like I'll be able to do this without the tab panel. So I'm imagining that the question will come up, you answer to the question, and then there's like a next button that takes you to the next panel. I either do that or I use something like the carousel, but this is probably a little bit easier to style exactly how I want to. So we might go with this strategy here. So I'm going to copy that. No, you know what? Let's write it ourselves. It's better. It's good practice, I think, to write it yourself. It means you memorize it better, and then you're less likely to have to come back to the docs later on. So let's go to the pathway page, and we'll put in here q-tab-panels, and that is going to model. How about just tab? I think that'll do. We'll name this pathway page is fine. And now we can come down here, and I'm now going to be using the composition API. So now I can say setup props, and I'm starting to use this at work now. So hopefully I'm getting a little bit better at using the comp API. And I don't actually need the props yet, so I don't know why I added that in. Let's have some data here that is called tab, and that's equal to a reference. Let's see if I can auto import this now. No, it's not. I'll figure that out at some point. A reference to a string, and the first tab that we will be on is that first question. So maybe something like do you know view. And then I can return that in here. And then we can come up and import ref. And that, of course, is going to come from view. So there we go. Do you know review? There's the piece of data there. And it's being modeled for that tab. Now we can actually add in some panels. Q tab panels. We can say Q dash, is it panel? Tab dash panel singular. And I believe that's just going to have a name. And then we can name all of these panels. So for example, do you know view? And let's see if that actually works now. These will probably end up being card. So Q dash card. And then this is where the question itself is going to be, where we can then answer it. All right, so something's going on, but that's all right. We can figure it out. Property or method tab is not defined on the instance, but okay, I thought it was. We're modeling tab here. What am I doing wrong? This is right, isn't it? The way I'm using the composition API here. Make sure this property is reactive either in the data option. I'm using ref, and it is a string there. I'm exposing it here. Man, maybe I'm just having like a brain fart or something. All right, let's jump into the main layout and have a look at how I'm using the comp API down here. Maybe I'm not using the composition API here. In fact, am I even using the latest version of Vue of Quasar? Oh, crap, maybe I'm not. How about Quasar info? Bugger, that's kind of annoying. I'm going to have to upgrade this at some point, but maybe I could do a video on that as well. Yeah, it looks like this is an older version. All right, that's fine. Just means I can't use the composition API, which is totally fine. I can do both. So let's copy that, and now we can say here data. I mean, I could include it, and that would, I guess, make updating easier. But yeah, I don't know. And what do we call this? Tab. Do you know view? So that's probably going to work now. Yep. And there is our question, and that's working. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm probably going to extract this to its own component. So maybe like, do you know view card? Do you know view question card? Or maybe we could call this a question card. They're all going to be styled slightly differently. I don't know. Let's do this in line for now, and then we might decide on that later on. So now Q-card-section in there, and now we can go ahead and actually do this properly. Do you know view, like so. And this probably needs to be a heading, so maybe like H, 2 would be way too much. Maybe like H3. And I'm going to have to remove a lot of this styling. Class is equal to Q-margin Y. And we might just set that to none by default, and then I'll decide from there. Yeah, we probably do want this to be big, so let's leave it at that. And I'm going to say text-center. Cool, and then we're going to have some buttons to answer this question. Q-button, and then we'll have all these different buttons, and they're probably going to have no dash caps to make sure we don't end up with capital letters here. Let's put a label on that bad boy and think of some of the questions, some of the answers. I don't know view. I don't know view. I know another framework. I know another front-end framework, and actually I can probably just copy-paste that directly. That looks good to me. We'll see how these look in buttons. They might not work in buttons. And then I know view. But then again, buttons are pretty easy to style, so we'll see how it ends up. Yeah, I guess buttons are okay. I guess we could just sort of stack those. We do definitely want to throw this in the card section. Oh man, I've forgotten how to shift things. Man, what is it? Shift Alt, is it? No, Control Shift. Oh my goodness, I can't remember. Control Alt. No, Shift Alt. Oh bugger, maybe something has changed in my editor. Anyway, we'll just cut it then. That's fine. And how about I add in here a comment? do you know view question. And then we can have here maybe something like answer buttons, just so it's going to be easier to grok in the future. I think I want these to be stacked. Do I want them in a button group? Probably not, to be honest. I think I'll just throw them all within a div and then just style it that way. That's probably easier to me. Class is equal to column, just so that ends up with a column going down like that. Do we want them stretching out? It doesn't matter that much. I think it looks fine. We just need to concentrate on getting this done for now. So let's say class is equal to q dash margin bottom, and maybe we'll say medium there. Okay, I think that's good. The styling is horrendous, so we might say something like unelevated. And we'll have to add some coloring as well. Oh, I moved the class from the wrong one. So let's do that. And then we want to give them all a color as well. So maybe color is equal to... We could even give them different colors, like blue and green and purple. I don't know. Does that look silly? Yeah, that looks silly. How about this? We put... I'm also going to wrap all of this in a div. And then we could do something like this. Okay, maybe not. Just trying to think of the best way to lay this out. Well, we can, for starters, we can come up here and say margin, change it from margin Y none to margin top none. Yeah. Q dash margin bottom small, something like that maybe. Nope, medium. I don't do, okay, maybe, and I also think this is a little bit verbose. No. Actually, no, I like it verbose. What happens if I add a, maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll say this is a column. And we'll say flex dash center. Let's do that. And that layout probably looks a little bit nicer. Just means that everything's going to be nicely aligned. And then I might even do that up here, actually. Let's say class is equal to flex dash center. And there we go. So how about we make it now that when you click on one of those buttons, it takes you to a new page where you can then select which of the topics you have experience with. And we're obviously going to need to like store that data as well. So we could have, for example, maybe answers. That can be a object, and then we can have nose, maybe like nose view. Maybe we could even do something more complete, like do you know view. I'm happy with that. Don't worry about the styling too much. Yeah, not now. I can focus on the functionality first. You're right, Greg. This is one of my common problems where I get a little bit too obsessed with the styling early on when it really doesn't matter. So that can be nothing by default. And then based on the answer, we can then set that. So how about something like this? At click equals, and then we can just change that value. Do you know view is equal to no. And then this one, other front end. And then this one can be yes. And I don't like the ordering here. I might even say yes, no, other front end. And that means we're going to have to change that margining thing again. So let's just maybe cut that. And, oh no, we want to leave it on there. We want to add one up there. And we want to get rid of it down here. There we go. Cool, and that should set the data appropriately. So we can basically just quickly check that by adding in a pre-tag here. And now I can say do underscore, view. Looks like that data is not being reactive. Oh, okay, it's because it's under answers. Of course. This is definitely going to be needed to... I'm definitely going to need to extract this to another component. I know view... of course, that's not going to be reactive because it's nested data. Sorry, it's sitting within an object. Oh no, it should be fine. If it's I thought it was fine if it was nested one level deep. Did I do that correctly? Answers.doYouKnowView is equal to the name of the string. I always thought that you could do it this way. Oh, of course. Answers.doYouKnowView. Yes, no, other framework. Okay, that's perfect. So now what we can basically say is if that is set to a value, then it's going to take us through to the next question. Once again, this is getting very crowded, but we're going to stick with this for now. I don't see a very simple way to extract this yet because I don't really know what the patterns are going to be. What's going on? Q-tab, tab-panel. And how about we can probably just steal a bunch of this. Q card. We don't want any buttons here. But we probably will want a column. Actually, we might not even want a column because it's just going to be a checklist. So answer, checkboxes, and then how about we say here, question, and then the other question that we had next was that. And we'll say other experience. And then we can add it in up here. I might even make this the last question because usually you want the more complex question to be the last one, simply because after answering 2 questions, the person is a little bit more committed, and so they're going to be more likely to answer all the questions rather than leave. But that's not very important right now. So let's add some checkboxes in here, and I'm going to stick with this commenting style. I like the idea of saying question, do you know view? Boom. And now let's come down here, and I can probably use like a Q dash. I think you can use an option group and set it to checkboxes. Let's come in here and say Q option group. And I think you can say checkboxes as the option group. You can, but can I do multiple? Yep, I can. So let's just blatantly steal a bunch of this code here. Q option group. And honestly, I might just do this inline for now. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do this inline for now. I totally don't care about that kind of thing. I prefer to get the code working and then I'll sort of abstract where it makes sense for me. So let's just see if that's working. And then we can basically say, maybe the tab can be a computed property based on the answers you've made so far. Man, I wish I could be using view 3 here. I really need to update that. So we can come in here and make tab a computed property. Computed tab. And then I'm just going to like just jimmy this code for now. Do you know view. So if this dot answers dot do you know view. We can say if not that, then we're going to return do you know view. So let's see if that works. What's going on here? Oh, then I have to return something if there's nothing. So yep, cool. That's working. There's definitely got to be a better way to write this code. If this dot answers dot, the next question is, I will say frame. How about other experience? Other underscore experience. And we'll have some of these options in here. So we'll have Axios, and we'll set them all to false by default. So then I can say here, flex underscore layouts. All this data is just going to be used to send something to the back end anyway. So we're going to have something more structured on the back end. This is just sort of like figuring out how to build out the UI first. Composition API. View underscore router. Vuex. Utility classes. And the last one is going to be, oh, it doesn't like something I'm doing here. This should be an object, of course. There we go. Animation. So let's say here, animation. Okay, so yeah, okay, so it's going to be hard to know if this step is complete or not. So I'm going to have to change how I move from tab to tab, but that's fine. No, actually, this is not going to scale very well. Let's go back to what we originally had. This was a terrible idea. This is a really, really bad idea. Oh, that's funny. Do you know view? Tab. Do you know view? And then we'll basically just have a method here that's something like oh, maybe I should just do it in line. I don't know. Yeah, as you can see, this is really not scaling well. Answer, do you know view, question. Man, doing questionnaire type stuff, this is harder than I thought it would be to like name things. Yeah, anyway. At click. So we've got yes, no, other front end. So how about this? Yes. And then we'll have no. I could just do this. Nice. And then other framework. Cool. And then we'll take in here answer, and then we can say this dot answers dot do you know view is equal to the answer there, and then we can say this dot tab is equal to other experiences. Sweet. And then for the other experience tab, we can just model that correctly now by giving it a name equal to other experience. Okay, I think that's going to work. Oh, that was a lot of code without testing. So here we go. Any experience with these? Yep. So that looks like that's working, at least for the most part. And then we should be able to generate those by basically saying options. So we'll say we got a label and a value there. So just got to remember that, label and value. And we'll say this other experience options. And now we can say data and just throw them in here. Other experience options. That's going to be an array with all of these like so. So now I can probably just paste all of that. Now I can go Shift Alt to come down like this. And now we can do something like this. This is going to be an array of objects. So we'll do that to begin with. And now, what will that be? That will be the value. So I think it was option dot, so label dot value. So now I can do label here like that and just check that the first one works. Oh, and of course these need to be strings. Silly Luke. Let's see if that works. And it's also going to need I need to be modeling it the right way as well. So Other experience options from memory. Yeah, label. Oh, value is actually spelt out value. So let's come in here and change that to value for all of those. Come back, refresh the page, and see what we end up with. Some sort of an error. Cannot read property map of undefined. What am I doing wrong here? I bet you a lot of you can see it already. Did I put an array there? Yeah, so that's for the options. And it's meant to be an array with objects in it that say label and value. Label, value. Okay, so this hasn't been defined yet. So I believe that was answers dot. How do they do it in here? Group, reference to. So this is all done within an array, the answers to these options. Do I want it done like that? Usually I like to have objects, but maybe in this simple case, having it in an array is fine. So behind the scenes there, they're saying that this is an array of options. Yeah, okay then. So let's say answers, and what was it? Other experience. Other experience, and now I can just basically set that to an empty array and it should work fine. All right. Apparently not. Answers.other experience, is that correct? Answers.other experience, yep, that's equal to array, other experience options. That's what the options are. Maybe we just need to do a refresh and try it again. Okay, so I'm still getting problems. Property or method other experience options is not defined. Oh, okay. Guess I wrote that wrong. No, it looks the same there. Oh, of course. This is sitting in the answers. Luke, you silly boy. So let's come up here and whack it in there. And put a comma in. Cool. That's all working fine now. We want to make sure that it's aligned, so we'll do like some really basic styling. But as Greg said, I don't want to get caught up with this kind of a thing. So let's just get it working first. What am I doing? Where am I? Yeah, okay, so we're going to need the labels for all of those and make sure that everything's aligned to the left. So let's see what happens if I do it directly here. Text-left. All right, so what we could then do is give this like a maximum width, maybe. Oh, I'll put this inside of a div like nya. That's already set to flex center. And then in here, we could say style is equal to width. Just something basic like 200 pixels. Column, Oh, it's okay, so that's on the cue card section. We could have this sitting in there. Do I still need to add the width if I'm doing that? No, okay, so that might be the best way to do it, and just put this in its own cue-card section. All right, that looks okay to me. At least okay enough for now. Oh, one thing I might do. Sorry, I know I'm over styling, but size is equal to large. Yeah, just to make those a little bit bigger, make it feel a little bit more fun to complete. Okay, so we can now come in here and make sure that our data is correct. So we've got Axios. We've got Flex layouts, and I've already written out how I worded it here, so let's go with that. Flex layouts, composition API, view router, Vuex, utility classes, and I want to follow that pattern of capital U, capital C, like so, and then animation. That might be a good starting point. Cool. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Good enough. And then we will have a next button from there. or maybe like an OK button sitting underneath there. So let's jump up and then have like a Q dash button. Actually, I might have a Q card section and throw it on the right. Q dash card dash section. I'll show you what I mean by that. And then we can have a button here. I think I'm using MDI. I hope so. MDI dash right dash arrow or arrow right, whatever that is. Let's try arrow right. Otherwise, I'll go to the MDI. Okay. Yeah, okay, there we go. Make this a larger size. People just get a better feeling when these kind of these sorts of things are larger, I think. And we're gonna have to need some labeling there. Label, continue, or maybe like last question. Oh no, next. Last question is a weird thing to say there. Next, maybe icon dash right, or maybe we don't even want an icon. Yeah, that feels a bit better to me. Give it some color. Color equals primary. At some point, I need to decide on a color palette for Quasar Cast. Yeah, I think that looks really good. So now our click is we can literally just do this in line now and say tab is equal to whatever the last question is going to be, and that is learning strategy. Learning underscore strategy. We can come in here. We can add another panel. Q-tab-panel. And then give it a name equal to learning strategy. And then we could say here learning strat just to see if that's going to come up and work for us. And it's working. Cool. So now that's going to be in a, whoa, not that. This is going to be inside of a Q-card. You know what? Why don't we wrap this whole thing in a card? Why don't we just wrap the whole thing in a card? I'm going to get rid of that. Let's see if it works. I might mess up some of my styling. It looks like I definitely will. So I don't know if this is going to work properly, but it just seems logical to put all of the content inside of its own card. And then I can set like some styling on the master card, and everything should just fall into place from that. So the whole Q-tab panels itself, Control-Shift-Enter, is in a Q-card. So let's save that. That worked out okay. That did not, but that's probably quite easy to fix. Maybe we can say class is equal to, what do we say, column, and then flex-center, something like that. No, I don't know how the nesting happens with these panels, but what I can probably do is manage these individually. So how about I come down here to the other experience one. Can I add it just here? Class text is equal to center. Let's try that. I don't know if these classes are going to pick up, but what I can do is that's already centered, so that looks okay. I can just come to this specific section here and say class is equal to, we probably want to say like flex, and then flex center will do. That's just a fast way to center things. And there we go. And now we can do the same kind of concept here. Or we can keep it simple and just say text-center. I think I can do that here. Nope, apparently not. Oh, spelled that wrong. There we go. So we've pretty much got the same thing now, but it's all sitting within the same card component, which totally makes sense. All right, so the last panel here we have is the learning strategy. And then this can be extremely similar to what we've got here. In fact, maybe I should make this function more reusable. I don't know. Honestly, I don't think it's even worth it. I just want to build something that I can push out sooner rather than later. And the questions here are going to be, the question here will be, which of these learning strategies do you prefer? Boom. And the answers are going to be, I just want to get up and running. And I want to go deep. Oh, I put that in the wrong spot, didn't I? And how about we come up here and just grab the heading of the other one? Yeah, that'll be helpful as well. And we don't need that. Get rid of that. And we probably should label this. So this is the checkbox answers. Why is my styling gone all weird there? Who knows? Just pull that in a couple more. Something like that. No, like that. And now this is going to be the next question. So question, and we can come in here and ask the question, learning strategy. And I think I pasted this. Yes, I did. So we got a cue card section here. Whoops. And close that off and let our linter do all the beautiful magical formatting for us. And which of these learning strategies do you prefer? And there we go. Boom. Boom. And there we go. So now that's correct. We just want this to be centered. So class is equal to text center there. And now let's actually grab the answers. I just want to get up and running. And then the other one, whoops, I almost put that in the wrong spot again, didn't I? Answer, learning strategy question. And then we can add in the other one. What do we call this? Maybe we'll go like fast versus deep. I think that's pretty good. And this last one's going to say, I want to go deep. Boom. And now we can come back here, refresh the page, and see how that works. Maybe we'll set some different colors here. So this one can be like, I think we got indigo. Well, now we'll follow the patterns of the first one. So let's say blue and purple. Once again, that stuff does not matter enough right now. Okay, so these need to be sitting within their own div and probably within a column, maybe even a q-card section like so. And how did I do it before? Let's keep consistent here. We just put it in a column and it looks like that made everything just work out. So back down again. Class is equal to column. Nice. Add some space there. Q-margin bottom medium. Boom, boom. All right. I'm pretty happy with this. And then when you answer that last question, so we need to create that function now. And this is going to be extremely similar to what we have there. So let's say answer. And what is this one? It was something about strategy. So this was other experience. The other one was like something with the word, there we go, learning strategy. So we'll add that to our data property here. Do you know view? Okay, and this will be learning strategy. And in here, we will then say this dot answers dot learning strategy is equal to whatever the answer they put in was. Cool. Last thing I might do is just make sure we can see this data while I'm testing it. So we can come up here now and just like whack it down underneath the card, I think. Yeah. So let's put a pre-tag in there so it's nicely styled. Whack them in. And there we go. Do you know? So we got nothing. Let's say I know view. So we got the answer yes sitting in there. Flex layouts. And now we can add everything to the other experiences section. That's working fine. Next, which of these learning strategies do you prefer? I want to go deep. And then we get all of our data modeled exactly how we need it. So the next question is, so now that we will have this data saved, now what I'll probably want to do is register the user in a special way where they're basically registered, and as we register them, we pass through this data. So do we register them first, or do we get them to answer the questions first? Probably the questions first. As long as I'm clear that you're going to need a register after answering the questions, because otherwise it feels dodgy. I don't want to be like, hey, answer these questions and I'll give you your guide. Oh, by the way, you need to log in. Like, that feels a little bit dodgy to me. So I just need to make sure that in my messaging and my marketing, I'm saying, you know, enter the questions, sign up, and then you'll get your what am I calling this? I can't remember. Your pathway. The fact that I didn't remember that tells me that this is probably a bad name, so we might have to come up with a different name there. But this will do for now. Okay, so let's jump back into the board and figure out my strategy moving forward from here. Because now I've got to figure out how I'm going to code this. So, how about shows register form? So we need to figure that out first, that when you've answered everything, you then get a register form. When user registers, send create pathway request. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think I'll do it in one request. That feels funky to me. Whereas I'm kind of comfortable with, I think I'm more comfortable with registering the user. When they're registered, we'll then send a second request that creates their pathway for them. And this is going to be something they'll be able to edit and like add things to later on. So if they find videos they want and they really like, they can add it to their pathway, which means that we need to start entering the concept of a pathway. So can you have more than one pathway? Probably not. A user account probably has one pathway. Yeah, which is kind of like a watch list. You can have, so you could probably have watch list or watch later lists, but then a pathway is something different to that. Pathway is something, it's like a list of things you need to do in order. So how about we have the concept of a pathway? So we'll have a pathways table. And what's that got in it? Firstly, it's got to have many resources, I think. So maybe like we'll call this a learning underscore resource. So you got your pathways, and a pathway has many learning resources. But this is really going to be a many-to-many relationship. So how about we come in here and we say pathway learning resource. That's going to be the pivot table that connects this data. And then we can have here pathway ID learning resource ID. Because if you've got multiple users that have multiple pathways, and one learning resource is then going, you don't want to constantly recreate that data for a learning resource. You want to create the data once, and then this basically connects that data to that person's pathway. And this gives you some interesting querying power as well, because now I can start saying, like, hey, for this learning resource, how many people have got that in their pathway? Like, that could be interesting data to analyze later on in the future to find out what people are actually interested in. Okay, so has many learning resources. I like to do it this way, like, learning resource, because by this point it'll be Laravel code. And then learning resource, of course, is then going to belong to, oh, these are belong to many relationships. Actually, I did that wrong. It belongs to many pathway. And I'll say this belongs to many learning resource. Cool. So we've got that. Now let's think more about the data that we're actually going to have for a pathway. A pathway probably has, well, of course it needs to have a resource ID. This is a bad name. No, a learning resource ID. So that's actually a good name, I think. Learning resource ID. And I can change it at any point if I desire. If the naming of things doesn't quite feel right. So we've got a learning resource ID. It's definitely going to have a user ID. So then we can say here belongs to a user. Really, this should be margin to the left. That makes more sense to me. It's margin U to the left as well. And we can say here relationships. I've actually got templates for this. I probably should just use the templates, but hey, you can watch me doing it from scratch. We need to have some restraints on here. So I like to add my restraints whilst I'm figuring this stuff out. So let's say, I usually call this like uniques or something like that. And this is going to be unique by those. A user you can't have more than one learning resource in a pathway. That doesn't make sense. So that's going to be a unique constraint. What else have we got here? A learning resource needs to have a resource URL. Maybe just like a URL? I don't know. It can have an image. Maybe this would be like image source. That's probably a better way to say it. It's a database, so I'll do it with an underscore. We might even say like learning resource. Actually, that's redundant. So let's say link here. Link, image URL, relationships. This is going to have to be unique, I think. It's also going to have a title, of course. So I have a title on that. Whoops, completely spelled that wrong, didn't I? By the way, if you're watching and you like this kind of stuff and you want to actually see the website I'm building this for, check out quasarcast.com. This is my test environment. But if you go to quasarcast.com, that's where I put all of my courses. And you can view my podcast as well if you're interested in that sort of thing. We've got a couple coming out. So the Quasar Life podcast currently exists. And we're going to get the Quasar News and the Quasar Devs podcast where we'll be talking to developers in the Quasar world. And I'm playing around with the idea at the moment of having a podcast with like Quasar entrepreneurs, Quasar web developers that like talk about the projects that they're working on. And currently we're working on this section right here. That's what you're watching in this video. So yeah, go to quasarcast.com/register if you're interested in that kind of thing. Okay, so moving on. A pathway doesn't need to have a title. This can just be like your pathway. Doesn't need a description. It'd be cool if you could have some notes, but that's overkill. So I won't do that right now but I'm imagining at some point, maybe even like videos themselves can have their own notes. Okay, that's for another day. I don't want to give myself too much work right now, otherwise nothing will get done. The title and the link, we're going to have to make it unique by that. I mean, technically, it doesn't really matter that much, but let's just say unique here. And we'll say here, title, link. And let's just say maybe the user wants to make this customizable so they can create their own titles and links. So maybe we shouldn't make that unique. I don't know. And then like on the database, so maybe we just do it by title, link, URL. I'm going to leave this out for now because it'd be cool if the user could add their own stuff to the pathway. And if they want, maybe even make it public as well and like share their pathway. So I want to be open to that. So we probably won't make these unique because it could. No, you know what? You would make it unique. And then on the back end, you would just reuse the one that already exists. Okay, but how about we do this? Creator ID. So the idea of the creator of the title of this learning resource. It's not really a creator because that implies that they're the one that actually made the learning resource. So we might just say here user ID. I don't know. This is tough. I don't want to come back at this and look at creator ID and think, oh, that's the name of the person that created this, and then accidentally attribute the wrong person. So I don't know. I'll put like a question mark there. And then we can say this belongs to a user, and then we'll put in via creator ID. And then this will be unique by title, link, and the person that created that resource. So just a little bit of data integrity there. And let's make this a little bit bigger. All right, so title, we're definitely going to want a description. Because I'm imagining this showing up in the timeline where you've got the title there and then the description. So for those that came a little bit later on, the way I want to display this when I'm done, for those of you that came a lot later, basically I've created a questionnaire. You answer the questions like this so I can figure out the stuff that I'm going to teach you, the videos I'm going to show you. When you've answered those questions, you're then going to get a timeline of videos, right? So this will be like, do this video first, here's a description and like a link, and then do this video, here's a description, a link, etc. So that'd be cool. I think that's it. I think that's just about everything on the back end side of things. So shows a register form. When user registers, send create pathway request. And what I might do is I might have a job in the background that I can update. And that job is in charge of attaching the learning resource, is creating the pathway and the learning resource. Yeah, we might do that. Saying create pathway request. Create pathway request triggers job. So the job we're going to have for this will do a few things. How about it creates pathway for user if it doesn't exist. Creates pathway for user if it doesn't exist. Adds learning resources based on questionnaire answers. So I'm going to be attaching these resources based on what they answered in the questionnaire. And so so this is going to have to include some data. So how about we do this? What's the best way to do this? Something like that. Triggers. So triggers a job, and we also want sends question answers data. I already feel a bit weird about this. I don't really like that I'm sending a JSON thing that I'm then going to convert into these relationships. So that feels a bit funky to me, but at least I like this database design. So that's something I can think about later on. I feel like I can later on fix that problem and fit it into this database design. So this is just a fast way for me to get started, to just pull apart the JSON requests that I'll get and then like associate these learning resources here. And then, of course, like I also need to do the work of actually finding those learning resources and making sure they're good resources that I trust and I like. Cool. External video link. What's this here? Okay, that's the timeline itself when that's created. That's going to be easy to build out once we've got the data. So let's work on this part now. Let's start going through this list of things. Man, I'm getting a snuffly nose. I'm just going to like sniffle and mute my mic. Can I do that and sniffle? Oh, that was so disgusting and you didn't hear it. Oh gosh, I'm a loser sometimes. All right, so let's go. Let's make it so that when you click on one of these buttons, it updates that and it also then displays the register form. And I believe I've got the register form in a component. So that should be really easy to import. So let's say import register form from components/register form.view. And then we're going to have to actually use that component. So let's go ahead and do that. Maybe spell it correctly. By the end of this video, I might extract these to their own components. By the way, guys, tell me where you live. If you're watching this, you don't have to tell me your exact address. That would be weird. Don't do that. But like, let me know where you're from so I can open up in Google Maps. I really like to see where people are watching from around the world. I just think that's really fun. I've had people from Africa. I've had people from Russia. I've seen people from where there was somebody from, where was it? Somewhere up around here, which I thought was like really cool. Like all sorts of places that I'd never heard of before. So go ahead and let me know where you're from and we'll quickly have a look on the map. It's just fun. So coming back here, let's actually start implementing this now. So we'll come down, we'll say QTab panel, and we'll call this register form. So I can come down here and copy that because we're going to need that in a second. And then we'll say here, register form. And then we can say q-tab-panel. And then we can say the name of this is equal to register form. And this is, of course, going to use our register form. Do I need any extra data for that? I actually don't know. We also need to make it so that it changes to register form here. So let's say What am I doing here? Answer learning strategy question. Why have I doubled up that? Oh, okay, I've accidentally doubled that up. Whoop, that's not good. Register form. Hi from Iraq. Woohoo! Oh my gosh, I'm so bad with maps, but I'm pretty sure Iraq is around here. Yes. Cool. Whereabouts in Iraq? I don't know if you're if you want to tell me that. If not, that's like totally fine. Or maybe we can like turn on satellite view as well. That'll make it more fun. I'm always interested in terrain as well. How like the terrain changes like from around the world. Nice. This is so interesting. Just want to note why you keep multi-empty lines between your code. All of this space here. Yeah, I get asked this question a lot. And I might make it a little bit smaller. The reason I have all of those empty lines in there, well, they're not really empty. They're actually not empty lines. It's just large line spacing. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Yeah, the reason I have high line spacing is because I have a philosophy that you should always search for things, and you should never rely on your visuals to find what you're looking for. So if you're very zoomed out and you're relying on your visuals to find things, then you waste a lot of brain power and space and just thinking, trying to find that thing. And this is the same with my phone. I have no icons on my desktop. Oh, sorry, on my phone. It's completely blank. In fact, I'll show you my desktop. Hang on, let me zoom in back here. I'm making a point here, by the way. That's my desktop. It's completely blank, and I don't even have the option to add anything, to add any desktop items to it. And if I press the start button, all I get is a search bar. All I can do is search for other applications. I have no notification bar, nothing. My philosophy is always search for things and keep your focus very narrow to the thing that you are working on. If I end up with something that takes up requires a lot of space, then I need to do a refactor most of the time. That's not always the case, but most of the time I need to do a refactor, and that's why I have like lots of large space. So there aren't other things distracting me in my code. And the idea is if I want to find like a section, I should be able to find it by searching for it. And if I can't find it by searching for it, I need to challenge myself to find a quicker way to get to that section. So I'll give you an example. If I want to find methods, Control F, methods. And I usually like do the colons and a space just in case there's not something else called methods. That's how I find the methods section, and I can get there really fast. Data, same thing. Like I can quickly find the data property that way rather than scrolling through my code. So that's my philosophy and why I have high line spacing. But it does tick some people off, so I probably will end up at least making it a little bit smaller. I think I do it here. Where's line height? What happens if we change this to something like 42? Oh, God. See, that actually makes me uncomfortable. Maybe I'll try it for a little while, though, if people like that. Can I do it in here as well? Line height. Yeah, maybe 48. 46. 45. Okay, so this actually makes quite a difference, this number. All right, I'll do it on 44. How about that for a happy medium? All right, anyway, back to work. Let's come in here. I know view, next. I want to go deep. There we go. So now we've got our registration form. And I think I can say in here, input dash props, make that an object. And then we can say filled is equal to true. And there we go. And I don't think we need this data sitting there anymore, so I can get rid of that. And yeah. We probably need to have like a title here, so maybe we can follow the format we had before of titles. And by the way, the fact that I'm scrolling up and down right now, to me that is a bad sign. And that means that this seriously is in need of a refactor. And I want to feel that pain of scrolling up and trying to find things and it being annoying. So register, or maybe like register below to get started on your pathway. And there we go. And now we can kind of edit that a little bit. H3, maybe we can make this a H5. And maybe put a maximum width on this as well. So style is equal to max dash width. And I might make that something like 350 pixels. Oh man, I really should put some dummy data in here so I don't have to go through this process every single time to get started on your pathway. Maybe not on, maybe with, to get started with your pathway. At some point I might even have like a little video in here for before they register, or maybe just keep it focused. I don't know. So let's put in here Luke debug just to check that this is going to work. And I might say here cd is .. API. We'll go into Tinker there. Just check that I'm not currently in the database because I think I might be. User, or we'll just pluck the name. Pluck name. All right, so I am currently in the database. So let's say user, skip the first one, and then we'll say first, and then we'll go name. So that should pluck out me, and then I'm just going to delete myself. Or I could have just made a whole new account. That was totally pointless. Yeah, I'll just create a new account anyway. So let's say James Coolio, because James is cool. James at coolio.com. Secret is his password because James Coolio is not very Oh, we need a button here as well. James Coolio is not very protective of his password. Let's jump into that and what's this? So this is the register. Register that fetches a CSRF token. Technically we don't need the response there. Handle register is probably more what I want. Oh no, handle register happens after register. So we should be able to just call register directly on that form. Not sure I like the code I wrote there, but anyway. Register form. And now we can have a button here, q-button. By the way, let's just go to tabs. This should be easy to do. No, tab singular. And we'll set it to register form. Nice. So now we can put that button in however we like it. And I'm going to say label is equal to get your pathway. Started on your pathway. This is why I detached the button from the register form. Well, this is one of the reasons. I like to be able to have custom messages for my register form. So now I can have different lead magnets or different ways that people register in my website that have different, different content here. By the way, what's my current... Oh, crap, I just got out of that. What does it currently look like? So that's the secondary color, I believe, and we're using outline. So let's go back. And I might copy this Quasar cast thing as well. I think I really like it. Wait, what on earth just happened? I thought... something weird happened just then. Something was like cached in a weird way. I'll have to check that in a second. Anyway, let's put a full width on this. And let's set a color equal to secondary. Nice. Of course, it's going to need a q-margin top-medium. Or maybe large. Yep. And what else? We're going to make these outlined. I remember saying. Cool. And for those that are wondering how I do this, I literally just have, so input props, if we go into register form, it receives a property called input props, which is an object. By default, that's an empty object. And now all of my input items now take in those input props. So I have a really fast way to basically change the styling on my register form. This is a strategy that I often use. You don't want to go too far with it though, because if you get too nested with your properties, you can end up with some pretty sticky code. But sometimes it's a faster way to style things rather than styling each and every one of them directly. So I like this pattern for simple things like a register form. So there we go. When we click on this, I then want to take that ref. So we'll basically say @click is equal to $refs dot register form dot register, I believe was the name of that method. And look, honestly, this should actually be, how about this? Handle register, because we're going to have a bit of extra functionality down here. So we can come in here and say handle register. And now I can say this $refs register form, that's going to do that. Then we'll take in the response. We'll log it just to have a look at what we're working with. And I might even just do a catch here to have like a bit of an oh no, just in case, like for testing purposes, and then I'll come up with a better error. I need to come up with a better error handling system later on anyway, so something that's more scalable rather than handling it after every single request. I want to have a streamlined way of handling those errors. I've talked about, we've got some interesting strategies for how we might do this at work. It takes a bit of extra work, but it's usually worth it in the end. So let's just say Rob Schneider. I don't know if I'm spelling that right, but he's an actor. Rob at blah.com. Secret. And let's give that a try. By the way, if anyone's just joined, go ahead and say hi and tell me where you're from so I can find where you are in Google Maps and get started on your pathway. Let's see if this is going to work. I think all it's going to do really is send that request. Cool. Really? I'm getting an empty string back? That's kind of strange. I think I'm using Laravel 4 to find the back end, so it's weird that it would just return me an empty string. But hey, let's just see if that user was just registered. Art Tinker user, and let's just pluck the name. Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider is the stapler. When is episode 4 coming? Is that of the Quasar show? If you're talking about the Quasar show, the Quasar show format is going to change a little bit. In fact, I should put this on my funnel strategy. Rather than having an entire show, I've realized that a lot of people don't. Basically, the show ended up being just a whole bunch of tutorials. And so rather than having an entire show, I'm going to have weekly mini shows that are going to cover things like this. You'll have, for example, and I'm going to try test a few to see what people like. Component of the week, right? So I'll do like a quick clip on that, and it'll be in its own playlist, which means that if you just want to view all of the components of the weeks and see like what all the Quasar components can do, you can just watch that entire playlist as it builds up, rather than having to wait for an entire show to view and then scrolling to that part of the show with the component. So that's kind of the idea behind that. So component of the week, I was going to have another one that's called like let's build a UI with Quasar, something like that. A UI with Quasar. What else? What other sections did we have? Like a corner of the docs. I love doing corner of the docs. There's so many cool bits of Quasar that people don't know about. So I'm thinking about doing like weekly episodes that are kind of mini episodes of this kind of a thing. And then maybe I could piece those together into a weekly show as well. But yeah, the reason I kind of plucked out the Quasar, I don't want to continue with the Quasar show, is that I just think people will get a lot more value from having something like this. And then they can watch, for example, you know, they'll get something in their stream saying, oh, Luke's done his component of the week. I might watch that. And then they'll be like, oh, cool, look at all these other components. And they can pick and choose the components that they want to have a look at. Or maybe they can go, oh, cool, Luke just rebuilt the Trello UI. That looks really cool. What else? What other UIs has he built? Like, oh, cool, he's done like a date picker component, or a date and UI, a date and time picker component that does both of them in one. So that'd be really cool. And maybe we can have like architecture. I think people really liked this section as well, where I talked about architecture. What's another thought? By the way, if any of you watching this want to give me an idea of which of these you'd be most interested in, let me know in the comments, because that's going to influence my decision. It's hard to kind of base it on how many views I get for each of these, because if I do this on a Thursday and then this on a Tuesday, how do I know that the views weren't based on the day that it was released? So I kind of just need to reach out to the community and see what people actually want to see. So you guys are going to be the first people to have an influence on my decision. if you let me go in the chat. Let me know in the chat. So Raymond says, I like it and think you're going in the right direction. Okay, that's good to know. I was worried people might not appreciate that. But it also means on the Quasarcast website, when you go into the show section, so when you go to shows, that'll say shows instead, and then I'll have all my different shows, and I'll be able to lay out all of the shows on the site like that. So yeah, I think that'll be really cool. Yeah. So what was I working on? Let's go back to our pathways. And this was working. So we now know that we can register. Next, I need to have a spinner for this button. This is the annoying thing about having the register button outside of... Oh God, I'm burping to myself. I ate too much. I had this like really nice vegan chocolate stuff today and it was delicious, but it's making me burp. Yeah, so the problem with having this button outside of the component is it means that you have to handle the spinning yourself. So I haven't yet thought of a good strategy for that. So for now, let's just go to data and have a spinner. This component is getting way too large. This is like, and it's difficult to refactor, so I have to think about what I'll do with that as well. So now we can come down here and then say this.registering is equal to true. And then I think you've got one called .finally. I actually didn't know about this until recently, till somebody told me. And then we can say this dot registering is equal to false. What I might also do here is, what you can do is you can say dot then this dot handle, what do we call it? Pathway. Handle create pathway. This is why I like promises over async await. I actually find them easier to organize because you can do stuff like this. Do you post any of your code from your episodes to GitHub? I haven't been, but I've just started a Quasar getting started guide. You know what? You guys can be some of the first people to see this. I have shown it on a stream before, but if I go to Quasar getting started guide and go Quasar dev, I'm actually building a guide at the moment that's going to take people from the ground up, how to learn Quasar, where we'll like cover boot files using Vuex in Quasar, router in Quasar. We'll use the options API, but then when we're done, I'll show you how to convert stuff to the composition API. I'm going to show you how to connect it to a backend. I've actually got a live backend that you can play around with without setting anything up on your server. And yeah, this is what it's going to look like in the end. It's going to be a to-do list app, and you can tick things off on the to-do list. You can delete things on the to-do list. This is a getting started guide I'm working on. You won't be able to log out yet. This is just like to demonstrate UI. You'll be able to create things for your to-do list, create new lists. And I'm also showing you how to build a landing page as well. So I think what did I call it? I've done a few iterations on this. So landing page responsive maybe. Yeah, so I'm also showing how to do landing pages using Quasar. And how to sort of put that into different components and have like testimonials and stuff like that. So this is going to be released when Quasar version 2 is released, because this whole thing was built using Quasar version 2. Yeah, so this will be really fun. I can't wait to release this series, and I've already done quite a few videos on that. Apart from the list here, I've actually built out the entire UI. Ooh, bit of a bug there. Yeah, so I've already done the tutorial that gets you to the point where you've built out the UI. So that's really exciting. And that is the reason I was telling you that is because the code of that is actually sitting on GitHub. It's like under ldbold/Quasar. I've got my upgrade app on there because I did a whole guide on upgrading to Quasar version 2. So if you're interested in that, actually, if you go to quasar.dev and then you click on Quasar version 2 beta, this is my video that I did that shows you how to upgrade Quasar. And what it does is it actually gives you a breaking Quasar version 1 app that breaks in every single way possible, every way that I possibly could, so we can go through this list and actually upgrade an app together in this tutorial series. So I've got the code for that sitting on GitHub. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. I'm trying to start moving a lot of the code that I do for these things to GitHub. Obviously, the Quasarcast code isn't on GitHub. I feel like I shouldn't for security issues, security reasons. But down the line, I might open it up because, I'm using Laravel on the back end. It's pretty safe. I do screencasts with my code anyway. And I follow all the best practices to the best of my knowledge, so I'm pretty sure it's not super hackable. And yeah, and by the way, if you want to play around with the API that I built for that getting started guide, you can go to to-do-api.quasarcast.com/to-do list or anything to-do related. So for example, to-dos. And basically, this is going to use cookies to identify you, and you can create your own. You can play around with this API, and basically, I'm going to purge out your data every couple of days or so that I don't end up with too much data on the back end. But it's just an API that everyone can play around with for free on the web, kind of like typeycode.com, something similar to that. Anyway, let's go back to what we were building. So the next thing we wanted to do is add a spinner here. And so we've got registering equal to true. We've got finally. And so I want to add in here this dot handle create user error. And now I can come in here and add both of those methods. And I can do something like that. And now we can say after they've created the user, we can take in the response, and then we're going to send a request that creates the pathway as well. Raymond says, nice, like the grid layout, and I have been watching those episodes. Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Thanks for watching my stuff. And by the way, guys, if you do a series I highly recommend checking out on quasarcast.com is the component series. I'm using Quasar version 1, but the API is virtually identical to version 2 anyway. They actually haven't done many updates on the components themselves. So where is it? There's a series called where is it? Quasar Components. Definitely check this out. Like, I'm super proud of this series. And it teaches you, I go through the entire API for all the components that we cover here. The only reason I stopped doing this series is because version 2 is about to be released. So I'm going to redo it, but do a simpler version. And then in my paid courses, we'll go super in depth into all of these components. And I'm going to show you how to build things with all of these components. So like the badge component, for example, I literally run you through the entire badge component API. So if there's a component that you don't understand and you want to know it thoroughly, like you definitely want to know everything the button component has to offer. So like definitely check out the button video here. I run you through everything and it's awesome. I'm super proud of my stuff in this series. So yeah, actually I might as well just copy paste that in there. Boom. How's that for marketing? All right, so gosh, I keep getting carried away here. Now we can say this dot registering is equal to false. We're actually doing that in finally anyway. So we might not do that here. And now that's where we're going to hit the endpoint. So we'll say console.log hit pathway endpoint. And then we'll return whatever response we end up with there. So for now, I'll just return that response. And for error, we might even say like this dot. This is such a crappy way to do it, but this is what everybody does. And so do I sometimes. This dot $Q dot notify, and then we can say error dot message. And then if you end up with an error on the back end, it's just going to put up a little notification of what that error message was. And so let's just try this again. Blah, blah, blah. My name is blah, 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 blah.com. Secret is my password. Oh, whoops. Secret's actually a really hard thing to type because you have to use one hand. It's all done like in your left hand. Oh, okay, cool. Now we can start dealing with these errors. Where is this happening? Register form on line 73 has errors. Okay, so it looks like we got errors from that. Undefined or null to an object. I'm getting redirected there because I'm already logged in. Okay, so I'll have to handle that, but I'm not going to handle that right now. For now, let's just log out. But you know what? We will want to check if the user is logged in because they might want to create their pathway, but they didn't create an account via this pathway link. So maybe they create an account and later on they're like, oh, cool, I want to create my own pathway. They come here, they're already logged in. Then I'm going to have to skip this register page. And so we're going to have to write a note for that. Let's move this to a different section on the board. something about the Quasar show. So the Quasar show is now being replaced with a whole bunch of mini shows. And let's just change the backgrounds of those to something prettier. Yeah, let's go with that. Cool. What was I just talking about? Yeah, so we need to make sure if the user is logged in, and I'll handle this logic later. If user logged in, oh, in fact, we want to show that even earlier on. If user not logged in, create pathway and redirect to pathway page. And now if user, oh no, so this is if the user is logged in. If user not logged in, show the register form. So basically we want to say, if you're logged in, then I'm just going to send you straight to the pathway page so you can view the pathway you just created. Otherwise, you're going to view the register form and then I'll send you to the pathway page. Show register form, then send it to pathway page. I love Miro, by the way. It's so easy to map things out with this tool. It's fantastic. My work pays for it, but if work wasn't paying for it, I would 100% pay for this. They don't pay me to say that, by the way. I freaking love the tool. It's a whiteboard app that's faster than whiteboarding on a real whiteboard. It's the best I've ever found. It's ridiculously reliable. It's fast, and okay, that's enough. Spitballing about Miro. So let's make sure that I'm logged out. If I refresh the page here, this should be updating correctly. Yeah, so let's log out. I don't know what's been going on there. And then what I'll do is I'll create a job. Then I'll do the back end, and then I'll create a job for this. So let's have like a kind of a to-do list here. Create job, and then create backend. I know what that means. So create backend has to go before you then create the job. All right, so moving over here back to Quasarcast. We can now check if we've hit that, because once this is hit, we will then use the pathway. In fact, instead of just saying that, how about we console.log this.answers, so we can check that we've got the data ready to be sent after the user has registered. .com secret. What a secret password is that? And then that should be giving me the answers. That's fantastic. That's exactly what I need. And we should be getting, I'm just going to assume that's working. We'll also be getting the response.data that should be giving us the user. It doesn't need to give us the user because the user should now be logged in. So if I refresh the page, that user should be logged in. Yes, they are. So basically when I hit the back end, I can say, hey, I've got this logged in user already. I'm going to use their data in order to create the pathway. So I don't need the user returned, but I don't know, it would be nice if I did get them returned. Okay, so now we get to do Laravel stuff. I might even take a break, to be honest, guys. Let me know. Is it okay if I take a break, or do you want me to just keep going? I can't believe I'm asking you that. I mean, really, if I feel like taking a break, I probably should. It's 1:38. I've been going for an hour and a half here. But yeah, let's at least get started on the back end, and then I might take a break. So I'm going to come in here and say exit. Make this a little bit smaller because we're going to be very much focusing on the code side of things now. Exit that. And now we can go ahead and get started. So let's say PHP artisan make model. The model we're going to create is a pathway. So let's call it pathway. I think pathway's fine. Do we need to be more specific? No, I don't think I'm ever going to use the word pathway again in my application, so I'm happy with that. Now, what do we want with this? We want a factory. In fact, let's just say or. I'm probably going to use or. Actually, no, we want a factory. We want a seeder. Let's do help. What have we got here? Factory, so FMS, and we're going to use Orion for the API, so we don't need any controllers. So FMS. Sorry, what was that? PHP artisan make model pathway FMS. Is it double flag there? I don't know. Nope. There we go. Cool. So I'll start with the migration, I think. So pathways. Let's come in here. And now we've got an ID, timestamps. That's going to be left the same. Now we can say table, user underscore. Or what we can do is we can say foreign ID 4. And now I can say app user. So that's automatically going to figure out everything for me. And that will be constrained. Cool. I love Laravel's API. It's so beautiful. Table, learning resource ID. So that's going to be an unsigned big integer. That model doesn't exist yet. So I can't. Actually, no, we don't have the learning resource ID there anymore because this is now a belongs to many relationship. So this is going to be a super, super simple model. Oh, my dogs are going off. I think my girlfriend is home, so I'm going to have to finish up soon. We'll just do a couple of these in the database and test them, and then I'm going to finish up. So we also don't need to have, make sure there's no pathway ID in there. There wouldn't be anyway, so this is totally fine now. Belongs to many learning resource. Yeah, that's set up correctly. So that's it. We literally just need to have a user ID in there. And that's it. Let's migrate that to see if it works. All right, we're getting an error. Oh, okay, because now in the new Laravel, this is sitting within a models directory. So let's say app models user, and let's try that again. Cool, that migrated successfully. So now we say art. Actually, first we'll build a factory before we start playing with this data. So let's say pathway.php. Actually, no, we want pathway factory. And then we'll come down here. We don't need any data in there. It's literally that simple. Awesome. So now I can say, for example, pathway, and I should be able to say, oh, we need to set up the relationship though, in order to do relationships with factories. So let's jump into our pathway and say public function user, and then we can say return this belongs to an app models user. I've got to get used to using the models directory. And that should be it. It can automatically guess the rest, so that should be all I have to write. Art tinker, and then let's say pathway first, and that should give me nothing. Sweet. And now we can say pathway factory, and then I think you can say like with, or like has, belongs to user, I don't know. With user, let's try that. No, okay, I'm going to have to look at the docs for this. It won't take me long though. I've done this before, so let's say factory. And it's got really beautiful ways of doing this. Belongs to relationships. You can say for, I think you can literally say for user. Yeah, there we go. We can say for user. So that's the language I was looking for user. So create a pathway for user. And it just works. How unbelievably cool is that? Now let's see if we can create it. So see if the database is happy with that. And it is. We made our very first pathway and it's connected to a user. Now, one thing I didn't do is a user can only have one pathway. So I'm going to have to roll back my migration here and make sure that unique restraint is implemented. I didn't add it in there, so that was bad of me. I should have said that the user ID is unique. So now we can come back here to the pathways. Can I just do here unique? I don't know if I can do that. I don't think I can, but I'm going to try it anyway. Art, migrate. Holy crap, did that actually work? Art tinker. For user, and usually that'll create one, but let's just say user first. Must be a type. Array. So I can't just pass through user. I'm sure I can. Hang on, what's going on here? So you can say has. No, that's a many-to-many relationship. So I want to be able to say for user and pass through the actual user. Weird. Okay, so let's just say user is equal to user first. And now let's do this again. Maybe it just needed to be instantiated. Oh, sorry, set to a variable first. Okay, that's unusual. I don't really know what to... Oh, we don't need the word user anymore. There we go. Now if I try and make another one, it should blow up, but it is not blowing up. So something is wrong here. I would say that unique is not working properly. So that's all right. At least I tried it. Now we can say here, table unique. And what's going to be unique? The user ID. So let's come in here and say art tinker again. And we'll have to set that user variable. And now we can create one for that user. And it's still working. Oh, did I migrate it back again? Art migrate rollback. Art migrate. I don't think I did do that. Sorry, guys. Let's try this now. Nice. Okay, we're getting an access violation. That's exactly what we'd expect. Woo! Oh, by the way, I just realized I got Jessica Archer here. Jessica Archer is Australian. She's from Australia as well. I saw her speak at Laracon in Australia when there was a Laracon Australia, and I even got to meet Taylor, which is super cool. So next, all right, so that's done. I'm happy with the setup there. Next, we want to have a learning resource and set everything up for that. Did I do everything right for create pathway? Yeah, I've done enough. I'll work on the other stuff in terms of the API later on. So let's say art make model, and then we'll give it a name equal to learning resource, and I think it was FMS. Factory migration Cedar. No. Thought that was it. Right, what did we do before? FMS. PHP artisan make model. All right, let's try it again. Art make model. What is different there? Are any of you seeing this? Oh, it is one dash. I thought it was two dashes. Oh, terrible memory. Okay, so let's move on to the migration file for this now. And we can come down here and we can say table string title. That one's pretty basic. We're going to have a description, and that is going to be text. We're going to have link. Oh, whoops. A string that is going to be the link. And we're going to have the creator ID. So I didn't decide on how I was going to do that. I might just do things the native Laravel way. So let's say table, might add this to a new section. This is more like relationships. Foreign ID for app user, oops, I've done it again. Models user class constrained. I'm always going to add constrained in there to make sure that it's enforced that it actually does have a user, and that when the user's deleted, this will blow up and make sure I delete all of the other data related to that user. That'll be important. So we've got the link. We're going to have what we were calling the creator ID, but now that's going to be the user ID for that resource. I don't know. Actually, I like creator ID. Yeah. All right, I'm going to look this up and see how I can actually change the name of that. Foreign ID 4. Okay, so let's say migrations. Foreign ID. Looks like it's not documented. Foreign ID. Let's just see what it takes in. Oh, okay. It tells me here anyway. So now I can just say creator ID. Cool, I'm learning things. So that will be working now. Let's get out of that. Let's get out of that. And let's get out of that. Simplify our tabs here. So title, description, link, creator ID, image source. That's going to be a simple string as well. So let's save that and make sure it looks right in the database. All right, so something is wrong, which is totally fine. Foreign key creator ID references creators. Yeah, okay. The column, so the column there must mean a column that already exists on this table, I'm guessing. So let's say table unsigned big integer creator ID. Let's give that a try. Oh, and it probably already migrated me to that point. Bugger. So let's say art db wipe art migrate and see how far we get. Okay, we're getting a different, is this a different error or the same? Column already exists, creator ID. So that's not the problem. I might just have to read the error a little bit better this time. So let's get rid of that. Wipe the database again. And migrate the database. So the error was failed to open the reference table creators. Oh, that's saying on a table called creators. So it doesn't, so it's, okay. It's looking for a table called creators. This isn't for setting the column. I'm going to try and keep things the Laravel way. So I'm actually just going to remove that and leave it as user ID. And then maybe within my API code, I can then make it a little bit clearer. So let's art db wipe migrate, and I'm assuming that this will work this time. Yep, it does. Cool. So that's set up. Next, we want to have a factory for this. So let's say learning resource factory. We'll come down here, and now we should be able to just say, for example, if I can remember how to do this right, you can say, for example, title this faker, and what was it? I think it was a word. Maybe a word for that. Or a learning resource source is probably going to be a sentence, and we can say the number of words. So let's say $ number of words is equal to 5, and say variable number of words. I wonder if I can autocomplete that somehow. Is equal to true. Cool. So we got a title there. Maybe we can even go all the way up to 8. We've got a description. And let's turn this into a paragraph. And I'm just going to leave that as a normal paragraph. So we're also going to have a link, and this is going to be, I think you can say link here even. So maybe it's like URL. Yeah, there we go. And we can even do an image URL. So when we're doing image source, image underscore source, we can fake an image URL. Oh man, I can even put in like the dimensions here. That's pretty insane. I don't know. So maybe we can say like, you know what, I'll just leave it as the default for now. We can sort of decide on that later on. Creator ID, we won't add in here. We just need to have the relationship set up. So let's go to learning resource. And now we can put in these relationships. A learning resource belongs to a user. So return this. What am I doing? User, this belongs to app models user. That should be all I need to do. Laravel can guess the rest, and I should be commenting all of this. A learning, I don't know. I mean, it's just me in this code, and this is blatantly obvious to me. I mean, I've written Laravel code a million times before. I know what that means. Okay, so we also need a unique constraint on this. So let's go ahead and get that done. Table unique. And what did I have on this unique constraint? I was making sure the title, link, and creator were unique. So let's say title, link, and then the other one will be creator ID. So title, and this can probably all sit in one line. Link, creator ID, which is now user ID. Cool. Actually, all of that can sit in one line. Didn't realize it would be so small. So that looks good to me. So now we can say art, migrate, roll that back, and then we can just migrate that again to see if that all works okay, and it does. So that constraint should make sure that we don't end up with title, link, and user the same. So if somebody's trying to create a resource that already has the same title and link, then something is up. We want to throw an error on a database level. All right, so I'm happy with that. Now we want this intermediate table so we can relate these two together. And that's easy to do. I always like to make an entirely new model for my intermediate tables. Otherwise, you can run into problems in the future. So let's make a model, and we're going to call this pathway learning resource. Yep, that's it. Simple as that. I don't need factories. Bugger, I put in way too much. So let's say pathway learning resource. We don't need a seeder for that. That makes no sense. And pathway learning resource factory makes no sense either. Cool. So let's jump into that migration. And now this is going to be super easy to do. We can simply say unsigned big integer, because that's what Laravel uses for IDs by default. And then we can have the pathway ID. I think I can actually even do this. I could probably even say foreign ID for, let's say, app models pathway. Let's see if this works. I don't see any reason I couldn't do that. And then say constrain, because once again, you want to constrain this data. So for example, when you're deleting a user, you want to make sure that it's being enforced on a database level, that you're deleting all of the other data as well. And you can't just go ahead and delete a user and end up with floating data. So this protects you from that. And I like to do that on a database level, especially since it means that if you ever want to open up your API to other people, for whatever reason, which honestly wouldn't make sense for this project, but if you open up your API, you want to have these constraints in place so that people can't accidentally mess up your database. It's actually pretty important, especially for larger companies, when other people do start getting their fingers on your database. It kind of scares me, which is why I'm pretty diligent about doing this kind of thing. So we've got a pathway, learning resource as well, constrained. And just on that, it's probably best that you don't let people have direct access to your database. I would avoid that as much as possible and get people to use your data through APIs. But there are situations where it just might end up being required. Maybe an analyst needs to be able to enter data as well, which might sound silly, but these edge cases actually happen in the real world. And it's not much extra effort. And it also protects yourself and new developers that come on board from them accidentally messing up the database. So anyway, there's those ones. We also want to say table unique. And then we can say pathway ID. So Laravel should figure out that that is going to be equal to pathway ID. And the other one will be learning resource ID. I don't know why that happened. What is going on, y'all? Okay, there we go. Pathway ID, learning resource ID. And there we go. Let's see if that migrates correctly. All right, what have I done wrong here? Pathway learning resource. Oh, okay, that's too long. Is that for the unique constraint? Yeah, so Laravel automatically comes up with its own name for a restraint based on these two fields here. Sometimes it can't do it because the name that it comes up with ends up being too long. So in that case, you can give it your own name. So I'm going to say like pathway learning resource unique. I think that's a good enough name. That's obvious enough for me. And honestly, I've never needed to actually find the name and look through the database to find the name anyway. So that's mostly for database engineers, I think, that need that kind of I don't know, information, or maybe they have their own ways of naming things. I don't know. Let's migrate that, see if it works, and it does now. That's a common problem, by the way, so it's good to know. If you end up with a problem where the unique name is too long, you can just send through your own unique name by using the second argument there. So that's working. Next, we basically want to use this relationship to link these two together using Eloquent. So let's jump into our pathway here. And now we can say public function, and a pathway belongs to many learning resources. So learning resources, and I might do that with an underscore just because it maps a little bit nicer to how it will look in the API when you send it on the front end. So now we can say here, return this belongs to many, and the related is, can I use a model here? I actually don't know. Apparently that has to be a string. Let's look at the docs because I'd rather do things through classes if I can. So let's look into Eloquent, and we might search for belongs to many just to bring that up. Here we go, belongs to many, and you can actually send through the class there. So belongs to many, and now I can just say app models, and it belongs to many learning resource class, like so. All right, so we can do basically the inverse of the relationship now on the learning resource. So this belongs to many pathways. By the way, did I say resources? Yes, I did. And now we send here via the pathway class. All right, so let's say art tinker and see if all of that is working. So we should be able to use factories to create all of this data now. So let's see if we can create a learning resource. Learning resource factory. My guess is it will not actually work by default because I'll need to associate it with a user. Yeah, here we go. Oh, link doesn't have a default value. All right, so let's jump into learning resource factory. Okay, so this is the link. I accidentally copy pasted it down and didn't change that there. So let's exit that, come back into it again. Nice, that's exactly what I expected. So then I can say has user, and let's see if that works. I think that was how you say it. No, so maybe it's not has. Let's go back to our factory part. That's migrations. We want to go to our factories, and this is a belongs to relationship of for user. That's what it is. So for user create, and there we go. We have a learning resource. And now let's do we got learning resource. What was the other one? A pathway. So pathway factory, and that is going to be for a user, and let's go ahead and create that. Now I should be able to relate that pathway. If we say pathway first, I should be now able to say learning resources, which should now be empty to begin with. Learning resource pathway, it should be the name of the table. So let's say learning. All right, so this should be singular. However, I don't like it to be singular. I like it to be plural because it means that it aligns better with RESTful API. If you ever want to expose this in a RESTful API. But do I ever want to do that? Or am I doing something wrong if I do that? Yeah, because with Orion, we've got related resources. So I'm actually going to follow Laravel's conventions here and remove the S in this case. So let's come back. We can say art, we'll wipe the database, db wipe. Then we'll migrate the database, and we'll say tinker, and then we'll say learning resource factory. Whoop, spelled something wrong. It's weird. After you code for a while, you just notice like typos or words out of order after you've been doing it for a while. And then we'll say this is for, by the way, anybody who's joined Let me know where you're from so I can find you on Google Maps. I like finding the location of people on Google Maps. And yeah, if you like my stuff, then check out quasarcast.com/register. In fact, I'll show you what it's like up here, /register. And you can register an account there, and this is where I post all of my videos. So if I show you the site itself, and this is actually the site I'm currently working on. I don't even know my own URLs. There we go. So these are all of my courses I currently have available. My favorite series at the moment is the Quasar Component series. And I've even got a series that helps you upgrade to Quasar version 2 if you're currently on version 1. So yeah, check that out, quasarcast.com if you're interested. Back to the code. Next thing I want to do, let's make this even wider because, in fact, I'm going to go full screen here, and then I can just switch between the two. I've got my hotkeys set up for that anyway. So now we want to say we're creating a learning resource for a user. We're creating a pathway for a user. And now we should be able to say pathway first. That works. Now let's see if this works this time. Learning resources. No, it doesn't. It's blown up again. Learning resource pathway doesn't exist. I haven't done it alphabetically. So this always needs to be alphabetically if you want it to follow Laravel's conventions. So basically Laravel says learning resource will be first because L comes before P. HRJKL-MNOP. So it should be learning resource _ pathway like this. I can use this table name explicitly, but I try to keep to Laravel's conventions as closely as possible. Makes your code a lot nicer. So last time, hopefully, wipe the database. Whoops. Migrate the database. Jump into Tinker. Create a pathway. Whoops. Well, looks like that worked though. Create a pathway. Create a learning resource. And now let's see if we can get all the learning resources, and we can, which are currently none. But now we should be able to say attach. And what's the ID in that learning resource? It's 1. So let's attach our learning resource with an ID of 1. All right, we're getting nothing there, so hopefully that worked. And there we go. Now I can get all of the pathways learning resources. So this is very exciting. We have a setup now. I should probably try and do the opposite as well. That's kind of important too. Well, actually, maybe it's not important because I probably wouldn't use that. But anyway, learning resource. First, let's get that. Nice. Now we should be able to say pathways, and it works. So that's all the pathways for that learning resource source, which can be good for analytical purposes if I ever want to see like which learning resources are being utilized on the most pathways. I don't know. Kind of a weird use case. But anyway, we've done that. So these models are created. We have relationships for those models. We have factories so we can very quickly spin up data and test data with those models. Next thing I'll need to do is build out the front end. But I've been at it for over 2 hours now. I'm getting a little bit tired. I might do a bit more work tonight. But I'll definitely be working on this tomorrow and also the getting started guide tomorrow. So, yeah. Might be a stream tomorrow. Let me know if you'd really like me to do a stream tomorrow because, hey, if people are like rooting for it, and they really want to see it happen, then I'm going to make it happen. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I love doing this kind of thing. It's nice to see that a lot of people have been watching today, so that's kind of cool. Looks like a lot of you like it when I build things live. So yeah, thanks for joining me. I can't wait to roll this out. And when I do roll it out, you'll basically be able to go to quasarcast.com/register or quasarcast.com when you are registered and build your own pathway based on this questionnaire. So if we go to quasar.test, I'll just give people a quick idea of what I've been building. What is it? No, quasarcast. Quasarcast.test. Just to give you a quick idea of that's wrong again. Oh, I had to put that in. Cheers from the GC. What's GC? Let me just think. Oh gosh, I'm so bad with what's it called? Places around the world. But yeah, so this is what we were working on today, a pathway. And I should probably jump back into that file and fix it up so that we're not on that page by default. So let's come back up here. And do you know view? You can see that my brain is starting to slow down here. And there we go. We'll make that the default tab. Yeah, this is what I've been building. So it'll ask you questions like, do you know Vue? And you can say, yeah, I know Vue. Any experience with these topics? Yeah, I've got a bit of experience with the composition API. Oh, from the Gold Coast. No way. Seriously, you're from the Gold Coast? Dude, that's like one of my favorite places to go. We used to go to Dreamworld and Movie World when I was a kid, and that was my favorite holiday in the world. And like, I can't wait to go view. I can't wait to go to the Gold Coast again. I absolutely love it there. Yeah, so anyway, I can then tick a couple of these and say, yeah, I've got experience with those topics, but not the others. Next, which of these learning strategies do you prefer? And you can say, I'd rather deep dive. That's how I prefer to learn, as opposed to like getting up and running fast. So let's go deep dive. And then it's going to ask you to register. And the idea is that when you register, it will then take you to a pathway page. And that pathway will display here. And it will be a timeline, a Quasar timeline component, so that you can then complete the things one at a time in order. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for watching. I really do just love doing this stuff. I feel like I got the best life. I got an awesome job where I get to just write Quasar code all day long. And then I get to come home and show you guys some of the cool stuff I've learned and work on quasarcast.com. You know, it's really cool, and I really do appreciate you guys coming along and, you know, checking out my stuff. So yeah, if you're interested in more of this stuff, quasarcast.com/register, or just go to quasarcast.com and check out my courses, if that's your thing. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next stream. Bye for now.